Russell Brand.
My worry is that Russell Brand, there isn't a single bandwagon that Russell Brand hasn't jumped on. But there's something about Russell Brand which is the opposite, which is like, just say less.
Conservative woman, Eva something or other, she filmed her baptism and posted it. And Russell Brand did the same thing. To me, those are very intimate moments, and they're not for public consumption. You're literally doing it for clicks at that point.
We're constantly trying to signal both verbally, in a written word, and with our actions, who we are, in order to try and draw those, especially public figures, to draw those that care towards you.
They don't talk in terms of bettering things for human beings at all, because they're fundamentally anti-human. Man is an accident in space and time. There is no God.
They have more dominion over nature than any Christian would ever want in their life. You know, they live as God. And that's what I hate about them.
Welcome to another episode of WTF, the world of Taunton and Fox, and I'm joined by my good friend Laurence Fox, Laza Fox, who is sitting in his home just outside of London in the beautiful English countryside. How are you, Laza?
I'm very good, thank you, Larry. I am. Yes, I've had a bit of a day of it. You realise when you move to the countryside that there's quite a lot of physical stuff that you never had to do in London. So I've been. Everything aches, I think, is the right way of.
Yeah, I
saying that.
I saw a tweet where you had a huge pile of firewood. Yeah, did you chop that, or did you have it chopped before it was delivered?
It was chopped before it was delivered. It was 4 cubic meters of wood. Bearing in mind that a bag of wood in England costs like 10 quid. You'll go and buy it'll have 8 logs in it, 10 logs in it, and this cost 10 quid. This had this was about 2.5 tons of wood, I think. So it was it had always been moved into the dry. The guy very kindly, but it's beautiful. Like you realise things that are so important in life, like the good quality hardwood, without wishing to make a pun, is, oak and ash and stuff like that. It's just burned beautifully. You'll hear a little pop in the background halfway through the podcast, no doubt. There was one just then. Because I've got the fire on in the house because it's getting cold now. So I'm going to have to buy light as well so you can see me. Otherwise it'll be done in the dark. According to Taunton and Fox. But otherwise I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. You're learning the things that I've been doing for many years. I chop my own wood, and we, so to speak, we pile it up over on the side of the house. I had a big log splitter for years, but I just use an axe. And when you're here soon, see, it's not cool enough here to use a fireplace yet. We're still in the 80s, here in the American South. It's still quite warm. It's getting cooler, but it's still quite warm. So about the time that you're here will be the time that that my wood will need to be chopped, and I'll just send you out in the mornings to do it.
I look like Schwarzenegger by now anyway, so it's fine. I can do it for you.
I have noticed some really interesting tweets of yours about Russell Brand. Tell me do you know him personally, by the way? Have you met him? Do you know him?
I think I have met him. I know him weirdly via an ex-girlfriend, and her sister is married to him. So that's our connection. I tried to phrase it in a way which was open, because you're always giving me lectures about proclaiming faith when you've got it. So, you can't really knock someone that's proclaiming their faith, can you? But my worry is that Russell Brand, there isn't a single bandwagon that Russell Brand hasn't jumped on in the last 10 years. So 10 years ago, when we were trying to vote in a socialist government with Jeremy Corbyn, who incidentally got more votes than Keir Starmer did this time round. Says a lot, doesn't it? Russell Brand platformed him hugely on his show, his radio show at the time. Really sort of got into socialism and how brilliant it was. And the thing is, I think you and I have both come to the conclusion that socialism is a religion of Satan. It seems antithetical to a conversion to Christ. Wonderful thing if it's true. There's then another couple of bits and bobs of the way that he's behaved, and but again, we say it's not. You don't come to Jesus as a healed person. You come to be healed, and so there's something about. You've been saying this stuff about Peterson, this thing about just say it, man, get it out there, say it, give people, let people know, and then we can understand what your worldview is based on, and we can work from there. But it's something about Russell Brand, which is the opposite, which is just say less, explore more, explore more, and say less. so my hope, obviously. I also know the people that he's around and the evangelical set that he's in, and it's very moneyed and very it's not my type of scene, I suppose. So I tried to phrase the tweet to say, seeing as he has jumped on every bandwagon, one hopes that this is not another one that he's jumped on, and I don't want to. I'm torn between thinking, is this a grift or is this real? And if it's real, great, amazing. But do you think there's something about early Christian? When can a Christian start proclaiming? I mean, you go to an evangelical church. When can you do that?
Well, let's. First of all, let me just react to that. I'm fascinated by your perspective on this because I can't claim to know much about Russell Brand. I haven't listened to a lot of Russell Brand. He's more of a British thing more than an American one, and he's gaining in popularity here certainly by his anti-woke views and by his apparent or claimed conversion to the Christian faith, but. That's a good question. When can you start proclaiming it? Well, I'll go to two passages. John chapter 4, where you have the story of Jesus with the woman at the well. And she goes into town after her conversation with him, and she begins immediately saying, everyone come and meet this man who told me all that I ever did. And then you skip ahead several chapters to John chapter 9, and Jesus heals a blind man. And he, again, is immediately going and telling people about Jesus. So I think you could do that immediately. The trouble that I have is if, let's just say, Jordan Peterson is a Christian. If he is, he's a very, very recent one and a young believer, a very young, very immature believer. And that would be true of Russell Brand. I would want to say to anyone who is a recent convert, I do not want to throw a wet blanket on your enthusiasm for your faith. Quite the opposite. I want to encourage you to be proclaiming that faith. However, I would want to restrain you from being a teacher of it in terms of offering Bible classes and theological courses and setting yourself up as an authority, because you have a lot to learn. You have an awful lot to learn. And I'll never forget this. And I don't pretend to know anything of it. Do you remember the basketball player? Maybe you wouldn't have been aware of him, but he was the Michael Jordan of the 1970s and into the 1980s. Dr. J, Julius Erving. You don't know that name? Julius Erving was a massive name, and I remember hearing back in the 1980s that he had become a Christian. And I remember asking someone, well, why don't you see him, out there talking about it? And this older Christian said to me, I don't know, but whoever his handlers are very wise, because they're protecting him, they're shielding him from scrutiny that he's not ready for. And they're growing him in faith and knowledge, and understanding. And I think it's unwise when we love our celebrities. And so if tomorrow, you name the celebrity, converts to the Christian faith, people immediately want to prop them up and put them in positions of authority and make them leaders. And they're not ready for that. They just don't have the theological wherewithal, the experience, the knowledge, the understanding. I mean, we're even told in the Bible that the Apostle Paul, upon his conversion, we're told disappeared into Arabia, into the wilderness, as it were, for 2 full years before he said a word publicly. So I think that's wise and important. And I think maybe what you're sensing, I don't know, you can tell me if this is the case. Maybe it's what I'm feeling where Peterson is concerned, is because I feel like these are people who, because of their celebrity, either are thrust into positions of authority, or because, and this is a more cynical reading, which is maybe your reading of Russell Brand, they sense a market and they thrust themselves into those places and positions and offer themselves as speakers and, commentators.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that idea, because there are many sportsmen, specifically sportsmen. There's a lot of English footballers and players that have played in the Premier League in England who are from Africa and places like that. And they spend huge, Kaká, that Brazilian footballer, used to give away almost all of his salary to the poor. And a lot of footballers, a lot of celebrities have done it, and they stay quiet about it. It's never something that they celebrate. So I just sort of saw him on the stage with Tucker. And Tucker is a great hope for people at the moment. And then I look at the people that are around Russell, and I think it's right. You wouldn't teach a kid to swim on the Saturday and then enter them into a swimming race on the Sunday, would you? You would go, enjoy the water, work out where you're safe, where you're not safe, and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, there's photos of him being baptized with Bear Grylls. I've had some who is English. He's very popular in America, but he's a sort of adventurous survivalist type. And I've come across Bear Grylls, and I found him to be dishonest. And so I look at
You did his show, didn't you?
I did, yeah, and he was dishonest.
Yeah.
Now, I said to them, I didn't want to do the show. I did it because my cousin did it, and she was feeling very depressed and in need of a challenge, which was a great thing. And she roped me into doing this show with her because I was worried about her, and I knew it would be intense. And I went on the show, and I said to him, this isn't going to be narrative driven. You're not going to just throw stupid things at people and stuff. He said, there's a bit of that, but no, it's all true and it's all real and it's all authentic. So I said, okay, great. And I went on the show, and there's an elimination at every sort of period. And he said he pulled out a compass, and he went, whose compass is this? And dangled it. And no one put their hand up, and he went, it's yours, Laurence. I found it in your camp. You didn't clean up the camp. And I went, no, it's mine. It's here. It's in my pocket. And I took out mine. And he went, stop. We need to stop. And he wanted to refilm that segment where I'd lost the compass. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. You're lying. You promised me you wouldn't lie, and you're lying. And whether your production crew want this show to be better, because, I'm going to have a row with you about whether I lost my compass or not, I'm not going to do that because you're a liar. I mean, I don't know. He was complicit in a lie by omission or commission. I don't know. So I think this is cynicism. One has to check one's own self. There's a cynicism about not being included in this, as people are waking up really fast to the fact that without Christianity, the West is dead. So, but you don't want to get too far ahead of your skis and say, Russell Brand's it's just a grift, just a business thing. But at the same time, I don't think you want to stay too far back on your skis because you don't want to fall on your backside. So you want to stay vigilant in terms of dealing with people like that. And I just think getting down on your knees and praying with Tucker Carlson in an enormous theatre full of people who probably have never seen you do anything else would say to me, who is this great biblical leader who has come before us with his long hair and his, funny voice? People might think, oh, he's the great hope. And we've seen what happens with Tucker when Tucker, in his enthusiasm, overreaches with people, with his revisionist historian this week. And he's been remarkably quiet as a result of it. I imagine the vetting process is getting a bit more severe down there. So that's how I feel about it.
Well, we'll come back to that. It's interesting you mentioned it. I mean, just before I came on the show, what has come out is this revisionist historian who I said, his name's Daryl Cooper, is a Nazi sympathizer. Well, it turns out I said that he was a Nazi apologist. Well, it turns out he really is. I mean, they're now finding, his convos and threads where he's saying that essentially that the fascists had it right and that they knew that democracy was a lie and that fascism is essentially a good kind of populism, this kind of stuff. So I think Tucker Carlson is going to Tucker needs to come out immediately and say, I did not know this. I need to apologize for having this guy on. I was deceived, but we'll come back to that. Maybe what I'm reacting to, and being just a little bit older than you, Laurence, I wonder how you feel about this, but you just said something that helped me put my finger on maybe what I don't like about some of these public conversions, and it is that they're so public. I can't remember her name, but I think you know her, the blonde, blue-eyed Dutch conservative woman, Eva something or other. She filmed her baptism and posted it. And Russel Brand did the same thing. To me, those are very intimate moments, and they're not for public consumption. You're literally doing it for clicks at that point. And I hate that. I don't like that. Your conversion to the Christian faith doesn't need to be a video. Your baptism doesn't need to, other than maybe for you privately, because it's a special moment. The symbolism is powerful in a baptism, but to do that and to post it for all of your fans and such, I don't like it. Is that just me being the grumpy Muppet, or does that smack to you of something that feels a little disingenuous?
Well, I suppose, you can fall all the way down the well, can't you, to go, what is public and what is private nowadays? Because certainly everything that the younger generation do is all shared online. So it's all public. I think that we get back to this problem of proclamation. And then you get back to the more nuanced area, which is, as you say, whoever's handling him is a good person. I don't, is wise. I don't know, because, I live in a world where what I proclaim either causes me problems or not. I mean, but I feel I feel there's a First Amendment, even though we don't have one, need to go. I want to be able to say what I think about an issue. I want to be able to speak on that issue, and I don't want to feel frightened or worry that I'm going to get arrested for doing so. And then there's the area of what is private, I suppose. I tend to think that, it's if someone shows their kid's face in a photo, I immediately go like that. I'm like, why are you doing that? Don't show their face. But if someone shows the back of their kid's head looking at the sea, I feel okay about it. So it's sort of, I don't know. Sometimes we're curating our lives, and we want those that we want to. We're constantly trying to signal both verbally, in the written word, and with our actions who we are, in order to try and draw those, especially public figures, to draw those that care towards you. So I think it's a very, very, very complicated area. My instinct when anything is complicated is conservative. So I always go, okay, if it's complicated, having said that, my instinct when I'm confronted with like a motorcycle racetrack is not conservative. But when confronted with a very, very nuanced situation like that, I go, okay, maybe it's best to just leave it a few months before you pray in front of a capacity theatre, and you invoke God's name to bless Tucker Carlson and, all that. To me, it's like, I wouldn't do that. I mean, if I went around to Tucker Carlson's house and they said grace, I would say grace, but I wouldn't film it.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is there are some things that, it just feels to me that your first thought shouldn't be an audience. Your wedding night, that no one needs to be invited into these intimate spaces. There just need to be some things that you just simply leave out of that. Although it's funny that, maybe I'm the naive one here, that you were just talking about their faces. I've noticed that some people put like the little happy face over children's face, and I've not understood why that is. I'm thinking, well, what's wrong with posting a picture of, your new baby girl? But maybe there's something I'm missing there.
I think a baby is fine. A baby is like a baby looks like an old man. So every baby looks like an old man. So that's okay. But, once your kids have kids are going to have their own agency and they're going to live a life independent of ours. My father, when he was famous, was very careful and particular to protect his family, to the point, I think, where he took 10 years out of acting so he could actually, selflessly, but on a personal level, he did it so he could dedicate himself to his faith. But on another level, he did it to dedicate himself to his family, because they're intertwined, aren't they? And he protected us hugely from his faith. And I was really annoyed about it, because I was like, you're famous. Wear nice clothes and be famous, man. Stop being such a loser. But,
actually, it's very interesting that you mention your father, because he's a good example of what we're talking about. I mean, the impression I got from talking to your dad over dinner in London was that he's the right example of what I'm talking about here. Here was a guy who, was a celebrated, actor, very famous, converts to the Christian faith, steps out of the limelight, submits himself to serious biblical teaching and instruction, becomes a kind of, a novice, as it were, apprentices himself to other people before he steps back into the limelight. And do you think that's a fairly accurate summary?
I do. I think he did it in a time when that was possible. I think what we're sort of getting at is that scratchy area in the middle between what is public and what is private now. And, but there are kids have social media accounts, they TikTok, they do dancing, they do football tricks, they do everything, and it's all to be shared. So what stops a child from going, oh, and also, by the way, I've fallen in love with this guy, and you fill up your Instagram feed or your TikTok feed with you and this bloke running around, and then you break up. What do? Delete the whole history? I mean, that's where we're at in terms of the understanding of the importance of, oh my God, I almost Kamala Harris it. To be unburdened by the importance of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that I think we just heard the dog there, but we hear that fireplace is really, really crackling.
I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah, well, then no. It sounds very good. It's very, very homey. Makes me feel very comfortable. Makes me feel hot, actually, sitting here in the American South.
Well, I haven't worked out how to put the heating on. I haven't worked out how to put the heating on, but obviously every man knows how to light a fire.
Fireplaces are always vastly superior. Yeah. Fireplace is always vastly superior. I love a real fireplace versus a faux gas logs fireplace. The fake logs and such, can't stand it. For you at a personal level, if this is you You're Russell Brand. You've become a Christian. What do you do? There's something in what he's doing you don't like. So how would you do it differently?
I think you can do it in stages. You know, you can go, I'm Peterson's doing it. You know, it's like Peterson's going to come out he's going to come out. And Russell Brand, it just feels like he's kind of just gone from 0 to 100. I suppose what one does is one goes, okay, am I connected? And if I'm connected, then that's good. Let's keep that connection going, you know, because at the end of the day, there was another thing that was said, which was really good on the Sean Ryan show, which I was watching this morning with Megyn Kelly. And he was pushing back a bit against her because she was talking about she was talking about annulling her marriage, essentially, which I thought was an amazing thing. Because I don't think she didn't have any kids, but she was like, you know, she's so very much with this guy, Doug, her husband, and they've got kids and stuff. And I think she's contemplating annulling her first marriage. And that's where the conversation began. And Chris Ryan went on to talk about Chris Ryan's an SAS guy from England. Sean Ryan went on to talk about this book of a guy who had investigated 1,500 near-death experiences. And he'd said that of almost all the 1,500, however dark their journey was through the near-death experience, they were always given an opportunity to come to Christ at any point during their journey. And so I thought, in terms of what Russell Brand is doing, I'm like, it seems public, therefore it is public. It has intention, therefore it has intention, and it's going to affect people, so it's effective. So therefore it's a strategy, in my view. I just look at things straight up in that way. I just go, if it seems, you know, it's that King Lear line, seems, madam, nay, it is. I know not seems. It's that idea of, you know, that there's a modesty that we've lost. And I think I find him immodest. Now, a lot of people would say that I'm very immodest as a person. And they'd be right as well, because I'm as fallen and messed up as everybody else. But
you mean walking out onto my deck when you get up in the morning in your underwear and smoking your cigarette? That kind of immodest? Is that what we're talking about?
Did I not even put trousers on?
Absolutely not.
Oh, God. Well, it's hot. It's Alabama. Come on. Cut me some slack, man. So I think that there's something... I think there's something so sacred about everything, really sacred about everything, that one has to be quite careful. And I mean, this is stupid coming from me because I'm a punchy personality, and I really kick and punch against things that I can't connect with and I think are false. So it seems odd for me to turn around to Russell Brand and say, you know. But I think the conclusion we've kind of come to together in the conversation is that, you know, if this is your journey, don't become a leader straight away. Because also it's not that sort of leadership, is it? It's not like being good at killing people or being a good racing car driver or being a good whatever that involves like full-on determination, I'm going to get there. It's not that. It's a very, very humbling experience. Therefore, if he was sharing his humility and he was going, I know nothing, I don't know anything, I feel completely, why am I doing this? Then I'd kind of buy it. But when it's like down on the knees, I've been saying, praise Jesus. I'm just like, you were entertaining a socialist a few years ago. And, you know, they're the worst. And he affected an election in the UK because he platformed this socialist guy. So, you know, I have the problems of history with knowing what people have said and done, and which is why I find logical consistency a really helpful way of looking at the world, because if you're consistent, it's a good thing.
Well, I will defend him on this point, and again, you know him much better than I do, but I will say this. The beauty of coming to Christ, of becoming a Christian, is that you're changed in an instant. And whatever it is that you were, you're not anymore. I was lost and now I'm found. The author of, very famously, John Newton, the author of Amazing Grace, he was a slave trader. And I'm sure that there were plenty of people who said, well, it's hard for me to believe this guy's a Christian because, my heavens, he was taking slaves back and forth across the Atlantic. The guy's a slaver. But we were all wretched, before we came to Christ, or when we came to Christ, we were wretched. And in a sense, we remain wretched. But now he has imputed his righteousness to us, and we're saved in spite of ourselves. And that's a really wonderful thing. So if his conversion is authentic, it doesn't matter what he was before. If he was a Nazi, if he was a socialist, if he was a drug dealer, it doesn't matter. That is changed, and that's the power. That's the absolute power of the gospel. Something you'd said as we were off air, as you'd said that Megyn Kelly was talking about a middleman. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So again, this show I was listening to this morning, and I find it so wonderful that the mainstream media are being destroyed by feature-length conversations between interesting people, which you would have thought would have been a clue to filmmakers who wanted to be successful, that maybe if they put real life in front of people, that they could enjoy it from a distance in the way that these things happen. So she had this huge, long conversation with this guy, and she was talking, he said, where are you on your faith journey? Which is quite a forward question, I think. It's also a very American question. I agree. If you said it to an English person, they go, excuse me, baking powder? We'd have no idea what you meant. So she basically said that she had a really lovely way of dealing with it. She approached it as a rationalist. She said, it's private between me and God is my relationship, but I am a believer. And I think that's an okay place for me to be. I think that's fine. And then she was talking about her sister who passed away very sadly a couple of years ago. And when she spoke to the middleman, he said, well, I'm the person who gives that person the last rites. So, I do matter on some level or another. And she acknowledged that hugely. So I think a lot of people in the world today are waking up to the fact that all of this stuff that we have around us, all of these things that mean stuff, from a season to a fire, to a really well-seasoned log, to a wind, to anything, all of that is God's work in our lives, and it's the environment that we live in. And unless we celebrate it and we acknowledge it and we are grateful for it, which is, I think, why it must say in the Bible, that we have dominion over the animals and stuff like that, is because we should just be grateful. It's not dominion, go and kill all the wildebeest. It's look at your bounty, And I think that people are really, really, really quickly waking up to this this truth that we have been given, this. I've got rain smashing my windows. I've got, I've seen what the farmers have done outside the window. I watch how the season progresses, and it's all a habitat and an environment, and it's a gift. And I think that people are waking up to that, because if you don't have it, you've got what we spoke about last week, which is the devil just gives you a number. How much carbon do you want this week?
Yeah, well, isn't that a big difference between what it is to be a Christian and the radical left? Because the left definitely does not see or speak of man as having dominion over nature, which is what you're talking about. They don't talk in terms of bettering things for human beings at all, because they're fundamentally anti-human. They talk about the planet, saving the planet, the environment. of making us less important than the animals. That's the way they talk, and it's such a big difference. It's interesting because you invert that view of the way you see the world. I mean, a Christian believes that man is an object of special creation, that he's made in the image of God, and as you said, he's given dominion over nature. They turn that on its head. Man is an accident in space and time. There is no God. He's a cosmic accident, man, that is. He has no more value than any other animal on the planet, maybe less so. And all of their policies flow from that. And the West was built up on a Judeo-Christian worldview that we're created by God and therefore endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to that, dominion over nature. It's a big, big difference.
But they literally live our model. These people, they have more dominion over nature than any Christian would ever want in their life. Yeah. I'm gonna build a massive, stupid ceramic windmill outside in the sea and redirect all the whales that are just as important as me around this thing and mess with their electrical systems and mess with fish migratory systems and have all of the stuff that is constantly, they live as God. And that's what I hate about them, because the agency of being given the dominion is that you also care you take great responsibility in your stewardship in your dominion, which is what I've always believed. And I think that these people are this is why their logic is so unbelievably flawed, is that if you're right and they turn around and go, there's no animal that's more important than this animal, then stop driving in a limo then. Go and give your arms, walk through and take off your clothes and give them to people. If you're not that important, but they are that important to them, and they care so much about how they're viewed, how they're seen, and I just think, I'm blessed. I don't live in that materialistic world anymore, and I think more about logs than I do about bank balances. So it's better for me. But these people are the perfect example of those that do take dominion over the planet in the name of whatever it is that they want to impose to control other people, whilst denying the truth. So it's kind of like playing poker with someone who's always going to cheat. And, it's like, after a while, how long do you want to play poker with this person? They're cheating. They've got an ace and a jack up the sleeve, every time, even though you've got a full house, you're fine. They're just like, well, I win anyway.
Sounds like U.S. elections.
Ah, yeah. Well, I mean, look, her bounce hasn't been as good, has it? Her little cackly bounce hasn't worked out. I have great faith in the American people, because bullshit is not sticking. I mean, it's sticking with some people, but it's not sticking with those who are like, what are you going to do? And I read J.D. Vance's thing this morning because Kamala, whatever, sorry for getting your name wrong, Madam Diversity Hire. She released her policy platform. And it's like, really? Really? This is what you believe? Any of this? I mean, it's like unbelievable.
Yeah, and you have the debate tonight.
Oh, we've got the debate tonight. That's going to be, I will actually not stay up for that, but I will wake up in the middle of the night and listen to it. She's going to go. She will just go after his. She will go after. She will call him a convicted felon. She will go after his. It will be a total ad hominem attack on him. She's not smart, so she's not clever enough to debate the issues. And she will just ad hominem Trump. There'll be a couple of clickbait bits where all of the other side throw out this clip of her going, well, I don't care what you got to say. And there'll be a bit of Trump going, you're stupid. You belong in jail. and it will be the right, the left will back this back and forward. But if that's the only debate she's going to do before she's asking 350 million Americans to vote for her on vibes, then those half of the population are, I get in trouble for saying this all the time. Imagine how stupid the average person is, and then imagine that half of them are more stupid than that.
Yeah, well, isn't that true? And talking about having an ace and a jack up their sleeves, I mean, Democrats are not paying attention to the polls. I don't think they, at least those in the know, the ones with you probably saw the. I think I may even asked you about this a couple of days ago when we were talking. The meme that Elon Musk put out of a hand, you couldn't see the head of the person, but a hand with a Biden puppet, and then the next frame, the Biden puppet comes off, and then the Kamala puppet goes on. I think that the puppeteers, the puppet masters here, they're not caring about any of this because they plan to cheat. They're planning to cheat. We will have mysterious a stoppage to the counting on election night. The next day, suddenly she'll be declared the winner. I mean, they are planning to cheat. But probably Trump's big victory here, if you recall, Democrats for this debate, they wanted the mics left on, both mics left on. And they're both not going to be left on. And that is, when one person speaks, the other one can't interrupt because your mic is shut off. And I think that's good for Trump, because I think they were hoping to bait Trump into looking like a bully, into interrupting her constantly. And look, which he can. He can look like a bully when he does that. And I thought he was very restrained in his debate with Joe Biden, even a little sympathetic when he said, wasn't the typical Trump, who was mocking when he said, I don't know what he just said. I don't think he knows what he just said. And nobody listening knew what Joe Biden had just mumbled. So I'm hoping that Trump is restrained and just lets her hang herself, because she is genuinely an idiot. She is genuinely an idiot. When you start listening to her, she has nothing to say. Nothing.
My mother used to say to me all the time, and she was a very, very smart woman from a different age, where she was offered a place at Cambridge, and her father said, you can't take that place because women don't go to university. Go and get if you insist on working, then go and become a nurse or something. So she did. But she was a very, very, very smart woman. And she said, whenever you're confronted with a bullshitter, ask them questions. Just ask them questions all the time. Just question, like gently. So I don't know if we discussed this last week. I don't think we did. I mean, tell me if we did. I debated this ethno-nationalist guy.
No.
Yeah, so this guy called Steve Laws in the UK, who is a big following. He's got a big following, and he's a complete ethno-nationalist, and I would say racist person. And I had said that the Notting Hill Carnival, which is this celebration of Jamaican heritage in London, which is always filled with rape, stabbings, murders every year. It's like, blah, and no one ever talks about it. I said it should be banned, because, it should be replaced with a celebration of Britishness, and you can be British, black, red, yellow, whatever. And Steve Laws went, no, what is British to you? And he sort of went at me. And then I sort of had a debate with him, and he got very, very upset with me asking him questions. So he would have a very strong position on something. He said, we need to throw out all people who act against our interests. And I said, well, what are our interests, and who gets to decide what they are? And he said, well, you know what our interests are. And I'm like, no, I really don't. So if you explain them to me, then I can say whether your interests and my interests marry. Because if you want to throw out every single immigrant who came to the UK post 1944, you're throwing out an 80-year-old man from the country to a country he's never been to. So I don't really know what the point of that the point of that segue was. But Trump and Kamala. I mean, just tell me your name, babe. Get your own name right.
KH.
Yeah. Did you hear that her father's name is Donald J. Harris? It's true. It's absolutely true. Anyway, what he has to do. I mean, Elon is right. It is literally the end of the world if the Democrats get in. It's the end of the West. It's just gone. It's finished. And I think it's probably finished anyway, but it needs revivifying in some way. But if she gets in on hype, bluster, and bullshit against a guy that had a very, very serviceable record and did very, very good stuff for America, then America is doomed itself. So how does America recover from a cheating Democratic Party? Because I don't think, and I've watched this stuff, and I paid close attention to it. They're not going to let him win, and I think that's a real problem. They're not going to let him win. The puppet masters who swapped Joe for Kamala. I mean, look, they had 4 years of a guy who was completely on the way to senility, and they were just like, yeah, okay, well, it's fine. It doesn't matter. He doesn't run anything. So when Trump goes, we need to drain the swamp. That is the swamp, the people that puppet master him. So my worry is that they're not going to let him win. And that's why I wanted to come out and see you later, because I wanted to be in America when the Civil War kicked off, because that's what I imagine will happen.
Well, I mean, we can do that if you want to. I'm okay with either, if that's what you'd prefer to do. It just may be that we're consumed with that rather than going and shooting guns and eating barbecue and watching football. So I don't know. We can still do a bit of both.
There was a thing about Alabama State. I was listening to another thing because I was listening to this thing about Alabama State. You've been going on about how amazing this experience is. That there was a mass baptism recently at Alabama State University. Did you hear about this?
Well, that's a different. No, I didn't. But that's a different university.
Okay, but it's still
yeah, that's right. It's Alabama State is traditionally black college, and that would be wonderful. I've been hearing this happening at a variety of universities, actually. But to catch people up who are listening to us who don't know what we're talking about, Laza's coming to see me again soon. Going to be here for a week and bringing the lovely Lizzie with him. And I said, while he's here, I need to take him to a University of Alabama Crimson Tide football game, because those in America will know, whether they've been to one or not, that is a cultural experience, a massive cultural. It's not just the game; it's everything surrounding the game, which you will enjoy. The tailgating, the food, the pageantry. It's absolutely incredible. But that's the University of Alabama. Then there's Alabama State and Alabama A&M and Auburn University and University of Alabama Birmingham and a variety of other iterations. But what I'm talking about is the University of Alabama. But no, I hadn't heard about a mass baptism at one of their games. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this was... Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I was I'm so interested and fascinated by this sort of mass people I've never spoken to about faith, God, anything. I'm talking to me about it, all the time.
Yeah, but this kind of brings us full circle to what we're talking about. When we started with Russell Brand, the question that I have where some of this is taking place, like my friend Eric Metaxas, your friend Eric Metaxas, I've seen him tweeting about revival. And actually, I did Eric's show yesterday, and I meant to ask him about this, and I forgot about it. But he has been tweeting about, revival here and there that's taking place, that there's great revival. And I probably take your view of Russell Brand when it comes to that, because I'm skeptical. Because I'm asking myself, what are they converting to? Just because you have an emotional experience or you say you believe in some vague deity, that's not the same thing as authentic Christian conversion. And so I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying I need more information. Converting to what? So you see these students and at universities, just as you were talking about, I'm seeing church services and public, almost tent revival kind of stuff where people are having very emotional, experiences, God experiences, and filming all this stuff. But I always come away, it always lacks a certain content for me. I'm looking for content, conversion to what? Please articulate for me what it is that you're converting to, rather than just this emotional display and speaking of your life being changed. Okay, changed. How? To what? To what? What was your life, and what is it now? So I probably have a little bit of your Russell Brand skepticism when it comes to all that I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean, look, also, it's such a big thing to acknowledge truth and to accept it and all of that. And that's such a big thing that, it can be 10 years before you can speak cogently or, about this experience. I agree. We mix up this idea that having an emotional experience, which you can get in, let's face it, you can get it in AA. You can get it from why you go to AA. You can get it from the very substances that you had to go to AA for. And you can get it from the very substances you had to go to NA for and all this sort of stuff. There was a good line. I saw it. What did it say? It said, people drink and take drugs because they're too lazy to do the work that it takes to feel good or fulfilled. And
repeat that. Say that one more time.
People are too lazy. So people get drunk and people take drugs because they're too lazy to do the work that it takes to feel good or fulfilled. And I thought that was really wise because, Russell Brand would have walked off stage and everyone would have gone, praise Jesus, Russell. You brought Jesus in the house of evening. He's like, I did. I'm kind of a bit like Jesus, aren't I? I'm wonderful. But it's, there are no shortcuts to any of that stuff, thankfully, because there are no shortcuts to the truth generally. So I don't know where it leaves. I do know one thing that I can say confidently is I don't want Russell Brand to be the spokesperson for Christ on earth in England. That I know 100%. And I went to a wedding with a very close friend got married, and they take their faith seriously. And the priest is a complete rarity because he takes his faith seriously too. So it was one of the few times in the last few years I avoid church like the plague unless I'm with you because it's quite the vibe. But it was one of the few times I thought he actually took time out of his day to come over, and I said, what is wrong with this Justin Welby dude? What is wrong with him? Why is he so dreadful? And why is he doing all that stuff? And he just goes, some people they don't believe. They just don't believe. It's not really about belief to them. It's not about faith. It's not about anything. It's a job. And I thought, oh God, that's so true. A lot of people do things just to get paid, don't they?
Well, yes. And boy, isn't that, that's not only a cynical reading, but it's actually true of a lot that we're seeing in this country. And I know in that country, and sadly in our churches and in our pulpits. Is that it's lacking authenticity. I mean, I think one of the things that really struck you when you were here and we took you to church with us was that you were struck by this feeling of authenticity, where he had, as I recall on that particular Sunday, the pastor, the guy who was giving the sermon, he wasn't the normal guy. It was like the youth minister or something. But he had asked people, how many of you have had your lives changed by Christ? And I found it quite moving because there were quite a few people who were, he said, had your life changed because you were drug addicts or you were broken from divorce and you were sunk in depression or you were, had lost a job and you were doubting yourself, whatever. How many of you have had your life changed? And all of these hands went up. And I thought, boy, this is really beautiful because this is what the gospel actually is. He wasn't saying, how many of you now, you were formerly only making a few $1,000s a month, but now, thanks to Jesus and crypto, or whatever, it had nothing to do with money. It had to do with brokenness, authenticity, brokenness, and people who had ruined their own lives or had their lives ruined for them by someone else, and then finding hope in the person of Jesus Christ. And now, unfortunately, so much of the church, doesn't matter if it's Catholic or Protestant, has been penetrated by a woke element that all they are is about a performance. All they are is about power, about fame, about money, about, as you said, a job. And that's deeply troubling versus the authentic kind of stuff. I think with you, our private discussions, it hasn't been so much me trying to say to you that I felt like you needed to go, and I think you know this, hey, Laurence, you need to go full Russel Brand. I want to see you, out there getting on your knees and proclaiming yourself as a leader and a teacher and all that. But you wanted to retreat, as I sensed, in the opposite direction. Absolutely in the opposite direction. And I thought, no, you need to go out there and state who you are, plant your flag. But that doesn't mean you have to become, Jordan Peterson or Russell Brand or some of these others, that we're seeing.
Yeah, and also there's this element that Calvin talks about a lot of the universalism, which is like, it doesn't really matter as long as it's all got meaning in it, and you don't have to actually believe, but you can like pretend to believe and all this sort of stuff, which is really, it's kind of entirely problematic when it comes to faith.
Well, that's what I meant about knowing what you're converting to.
Yeah. And I don't think it's that overly complicated, really. So I'm always trying to say to people, it's not like if someone is struggling or suffering or going through stuff and I go, have you tried praying? And they're like, what do you mean? Why would I do that? And I'm like, have you tried? And they're like, no. And I'm like, try. See what happens. And it's interesting because, you've got this wide open door in your life, and your life is a crowded room full of the mistakes of your past and the mistakes you're going to make in your future. And there's just this door there, and you can just look at the door and you'll be okay. But it's amazing how we just overcomplicate our existence to the nth degree. And those that are suffering will put themselves in positions where they can suffer more, and those that are not will seek out places of refuge and places where that's where the divide, I think, is coming from. So the need for censorship, power, control, all of the things that are happening in our world at the moment is a secular resistance to like a tsunami of truth. I mean, when I say tsunami, I actually mean ocean. It's just like, you can just get in it, go for a swim, see what happens. But this sort of godless time is so. You shall know them by their fruits. Look at the world; it's astonishingly, it's just terrible at the moment. And even the good things are pretty hard. Ooh. That's one of the dogs who just bit the other dog. Sorry.
Well, here's maybe a final thought to munch on. You're talking about tyranny. Dostoevsky says in the Brothers Karamazov, in that real famous chapter, The Grand Inquisitor, he essentially argues that human beings, that we prefer to be enslaved, that we say to our masters, make us your slaves, but please feed us. And that Jesus, please give us bread, I think is the line. And he says, meanwhile, on the other hand, so here's the devil, through his Satan, through his earthly minions, enslaving humanity. And then over on the other side, here's Jesus, who offers authentic freedom. But authentic freedom is terrifying to us. Real freedom, which he offers, liberation, is terrifying to us. And so we gravitate towards becoming slaves to our habits, slaves to our earthly masters. Just feed us, because freedom requires too much work, too much responsibility, too much self-reliance. And I just don't want it. It's just exhausting. Just enslave me. Tell me what to do. What do you think about that?
I think that's true of a lot of people. And I think that's fine in times of non-societal flux. I think it's okay for people to just go, you know what, man, I just want to get on and I want to do this and I need to do that and I need to, because I think a lot of people who work will have that view too. Just, I'll be a slave to your system. But once you see it as a system, it's very, very difficult to unsee it as a system. So, when a police officer comes up to me nowadays, in the old, me 10 years ago, 5-6 years ago, I would have seen the police officer and I would have immediately been on edge and gone, what have I done wrong? You're in charge. You're my authority figure. Now I look at a police officer, I do that thing when they actors say, imagine your audience is naked. I just look at them and I go, just because you've got a uniform on, that doesn't make you anybody to me. You have a right to assert laws that exist or don't exist in the UK, but we're in a period of real flux. So no one knows what the law is. And there was a very interesting article actually today, which we should post in the links, with an English singer called Morrissey. And I think let me just find out what the name, because we should put it in the link.
Send it to me.
It's so this was Morrissey's quote, because he hasn't been able to release this album that he wrote. He was in the Smiths. He's iconic conservative, strangely, in the arts, but when the arts tolerated conservatism, has written an album about England, and it's called Bonfire of the Teenagers. And the reason it hasn't been released is because one of the songs is about the suicide bombing of the Manchester Arena when Ariana Grande was doing a concert in Manchester, and 22 kids were killed, over 1,000 were injured. It was a proper 9/11,
I remember that.
An English 9/11. And this is what he says: once you edit yourself or self-censor, then the idiots have won. There is no arts media anymore in England. Therefore, there's no one to whom I can sit and talk about this. The fact is, genuine artists in England are now being held hostage by people who object to any manner of alternative opinion. The biggest monsters are the Be Kind crew, the social media movement promoting empathy, who will smash your face in if you disagree with them. And I just thought, in terms of, he's a weather vane, a cultural weather vane for the UK, Morrissey. I suggest people look up some of his music. It's absolutely brilliant. But they won't release the album because he wrote a song about, he straight after this bombing, they all met back in the arena and they sang Don't Look Back in Anger. And one of the lyrics of the song is that they say, don't look back in anger, I will be looking back in anger until the day I die. And it's causing a ruckus. So hopefully this music will be released. And now I will then have someone, when he says he's got no one to talk to about this, he's got someone to talk to about this, which is me. Because I feel like I'm an artist in many ways. What we've just spoken about, this thing about courage and slavery, I've written it, nearly finished it now. And I need Morrissey to speak to me. So why can't I hear him? Why does someone have to censor him because he's got one thing to say? You don't have to listen to him. And this is the problem with the left. They do not want you to listen to anything which doesn't come from them. And that's tyranny. It's getting dark here, Larry. I'm about to go out of light.
Well, listen, this has been it's been fun seeing you. It's been fun talking to you. It looks like you've actually lost power there. But yeah, it's definitely
it's just
definitely gotten dark.
Yeah, sorry. I'm on the list is a light. So I'm in the process of trying to get my studio set up, but you know what it's like with all these things.
Well, my friend, it's good talking to you. I look forward to getting together here. We'll be able to film some stuff in studio, and we'll have a lot of fun. We'll go and shoot some guns and go bouncing around in the forest in a Defender and go and watch some Alabama football and sit on the dock and at the lake and just enjoy all the things, except for the last part, all things you cannot do in the UK, but that you can do here.
It's true.
Because we're still free. How much longer? I don't know.
Well, that's
we're still free here.
That's what Calvin's been saying. Calvin's first tweet was brilliant. He said, "I love this free speech stuff," and he just rattled off a list of things that he thought. And I thought he wouldn't say that here. But anyway, God bless you, and I'll speak to Lizzie now, and we'll work out when we're gonna come out.
All right, buddy. Well, this has been another episode of WTF, World of Taunton and
Fox, or as I like to call it, what the. On with this world. God bless.
Take care, man.
Bye.